started actually. So the question came from one of the student is it possible after this training to get a certification and also land a job in IT? Yes, definitely it is possible. Because it depends on how you market yourself, how you brand yourself, how you optimize your resume, and also relate it with your LinkedIn profile. It all that's definitely it's possible. Um, how you can do that? Because I was giving an example of mine. For example, I myself came out of the QA background from back in from 2015 and 16 when it was 2015 when I started from the Blue Cross Blue Shield. Uh, but again, why how I transitioned is when I was part of QA, I saw myself in front of my eyes the transformation happening because the Zurich North America, they were transforming from waterfall to agile. And I was part of the Scrum team as a QA engineer, and I was providing the status. I saw all those scenarios happening, and I observed them, and then I show, oh wow, this is where I want to be. I want to take my career up to that level. So, but how you guys can get a leverage this? Uh, for example, I was part of that transformation, right? But you are not. But you have a great, huge contents out there that I can even share with you, or even you guys can research. Udemy have $10 or $15 deals on the courses that you can take, or YouTube is full of contents. You can subscribe a full channel that have the whole list of contents, not only Scrum, even up to the Scrum, which is safe as well, scaled agile. If time permits, I will spend some minutes on the safe as well, which is scaled agile, next level of Scrum. So after consuming all those concepts and watching the videos and live examples of those YouTube contents, definitely you guys can land a job because it's all about how you adapt, how you prepare yourself. So that was the question. I mean, sorry about sharing more details, but my intent or idea is to give you full details as much possible. Again, we have reserved our last class for this purpose to, share any interview tips, optimizing resume, and spending 5 minutes or 2 minutes. Just remember, interview panel. They ask you, hey, introduce yourself. That's where you put paint a good picture of yourself, where they start listening or taking interest in listening to you. If you just keep giving if you're a good story, actually my agile coach used to say that if you are a good storyteller, definitely you're a good scrum master then, because the idea is like even Microsoft founder Bill Gates used to say that if you don't, if you cannot explain it in a simple words, you don't know it properly, you don't know enough, stop explaining it. The idea is you have to be a good storyteller. You have to explain it in a good way. Whoever is sharing the question in the chat, please put it on the idea boards. That will come back because otherwise, it will impact our contents of the class that we are going to through. Is this looking at the Scrum? Any other question? I will park it. Okay, no worries. So it's only 14 pages document. Does anyone have gone through all the Scrum guide and have consumed even at least the contents where we are up to the point?
Yes, almost. Yeah.
Wonderful, great. Okay, so can you share give an example of two of the Scrum values?
What is a daily stand-up?
No, those are events, ceremonies. I'm talking about values.
So the respect, the most important,
There you go.
and the openness.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Yes. And also, again, don't be shy in answering anything. You will not be discouraged. But again, the outcome of this class is to consume and elaborate, and this also reflects how serious you guys are. So yeah, thank you, Sana. So with that, we're gonna drill down into the Scrum events. I know we lightly touched or we went quickly in the last class, so that's why we're gonna resume where we ended, but we have long way to go. because this one Scrum Guide does not captures the break in how the work is breakdown into the Scrum. It just only prescribes you the ingredients, the guidelines, not the actually work how the work should be done. For example, it's not showing what is the epic, what is story, like right, how you estimate the story, because that Scrum Guide leaves up to the team how they want to divide their work, how they want to break down their work. So that's why there is no hard and fast rule how to break down a work, but the guidelines is gives you the principles and the best practices that you have to follow, and also events that must be followed to deliver the quality software. So with that, let's get started with our class 3 contents. Let me go into the presentation mode. Here we go. So the question where we ended up last time is about sprint ceremonies. Remember we talked about there are major 5 sprints ceremonies or Scrum events. Um, so there are one thing I would like to set the expectations with you guys is uh, if you
So
hear
can you please share
multiple.
your slide as well so we cannot miss
I'm not sure.
something?
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Good catch. Thanks for being my set of eyes. It's always good. And here we go. Let me click on the sharing. There you go. Is it visible? Are you guys able to see that?
Yes, we can take that.
There you go. Okay, wonderful. Remember we talked about 5 Scrum events, and sprint is one of them. Actually, sprint it's not something. The sprint is separate from the Scrum. Uh, as I mentioned in the last class, sprint is a container that gives you a kind of a set of events or ceremonies that must be executed. So that's why the industrial leaders, they call the sprint also. They also consider the sprint as part of the Scrum as well, like an event. For example, if there is no sprint, how you can do sprint planning, right? If there is no sprint, how you can do sprint reviews? So sprint is overall big picture, like container within itself. Those are the ceremonies that happens on the regular basis. So for example, if you don't start your sprint, right? How can you do sprint review or demo? So that's why I captured this slide, and there's another conflicting slide in the coming slides that I will spend a few minutes to explain it to you. Because, for example, there could be for example, interview panel guy. They must be sitting. They may not agree with you, right? So you have to answer them in all scenarios. Okay, some of the industry leaders considers 5 sprint ceremonies as the sprint, right? The sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. Then they may throw a question, how about backlog grooming or backlog refinement? Those are different names, but same event. Then my next slides will answer that question, where you can drive them to that particular scenario. Why it's not captured? Because the sprint backlog or sprint backlog, sorry, not the sprint backlog, the backlog grooming or backlog refinement session or event or meeting is a continuous actually event that must be occur, that must happen, but not on the regular. It could be that must be actually happening on a continuous basis. It's not. It's outside. It's not dependent on the sprint actually. In a simple words, but we will get to that point. Let's spend a few minutes on this slide to give you guys a more perspective of what could be the cadence of each event, right? Or is it really has to be that long or not? No. For example, first of all, let's talk about a sprint. I'm sure all of you guys know the definition of sprint, right? By up to this point, I assume. I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, right? But
Right.
the question might be coming in your mind, the how long the sprint could be, right? The recommendation of the sprint is it should be like the highest the cadence or duration it could go is 1 month. But the most frequent adapted in the companies is 2 weeks, but they also say it could be 2 to 3 weeks. The best approach is 2 to 3 weeks, but don't drag it until more than a month. Even if the companies that they adapt it up to 4 weeks, which is a month, right? They also revisit and come back to reduce it actually. The question might be in your mind that why more than a month is not recommended, right? Then think about waterfall in mind, right? The more you drag, the more issues will evolve in terms of like, the customer will not satisfied or team will be just taking easy in terms of, oh, we have 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks. I will work on it. Also much risky as well. For example, the customer or stakeholders, right, might be, hammering on on your table. Hey, I need this in 2 weeks. Why should I wait for a whole month? Correct. So give them a kind of, remember, shortest job first and deliver it. So take the easiest one, like low-hanging fruit in terms of prioritization, and deliver it and show it to the customer, right? So that's why the recommendation is to keep the sprint in 2 to 3 weeks cadence. I normally have, so far I've been working like, how many, like 7, 8 years. I see most of the 2 week sprint. There was one corporation that was working only for 3 weeks. I never saw a 1 month long sprint in my career so far. So that's why the best recommendation is to keep the sprint up to 2 to 3 weeks. So sometimes the company start with a like higher bandwidth, for example, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they revisit their processes and based on lessons learned, they may reduce it or keep the same going. Okay. Um, does anyone watching the lobby and allowing the people, or should I go back? Because I heard a beep. Sorry about that. Um,
Can I
can
ask a
I?
question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I want to know who's the person in the team who decide the sprint time, whether 2 weeks or three
Yes.
weeks or a month.
I saw that question on the idea boards. Thanks for bringing it up, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, wonderful. Right in time, actually. So when the transformation actually happens, companies spend like, lots of budgeting on it, right? Transformation is not easy. What they do is sometimes the Scrum or Agile principle, they come under PMO, project management organization, the way they have set it up. Or in my Blue Cross Blue Shield, they used to call it activation office. They set up the like, manager level, and then under that they set up some few reserves, some administrative assistants, that they bring the agile coaches from the vendors. C Prime is the most famous, Infosys is the most famous, Cognizant. They all have agile coaches that they work with them. They have affiliated with them, right? Or even scale agile itself safe as well. So they contract with them to bring the agile coaches to assess where the company currently exists. They come and they should do some surveys. They do some data. They collect some data. Based on that, they recommend some guidelines to the corporations or companies that, okay, hey, this is where you guys are. That's your current state. So here's your 90 days plan. Okay, and here's your 180 days plan. So they give those kind of, they work on those roadmaps, and then that's where they start transformation. For example, out of they have like, portfolios, right, multiple business areas, or like, in simple words, departments, right? They work on beta teams, like, hey, let's transform only this department or group or area, and see how they perform. Based on that, then they grow, evolve. So they take it even in an agile way as well. So question came from who decides. That's where the agile coaches recommends, hey, let's start with 3 weeks and we will revisit how the companies, how the teams feel about it. Let's collect the data from, because it's always team agreement. Remember, we give the control to the team, right, to decide. But the team cannot decide because they are the developers. They are not agile trained yet so far. Agile coaches comes up and they execute the training for the teams, and that's where they recommend that, okay, hey, let's start our 2 weeks of sprint and we will go from there. If you guys feel we can extend it 1 more week, we can do 3 weeks, or vice versa. Let's start with 3 weeks and then we can bring down to 2 weeks. But those are agile coaches are part of your PMO, or they are part of transformation because they are the knowledgeable people. and they have the necessary tools and skills to recommend it. Teams cannot decide, at least at a sprint bandwidth or sprint period level, how long the sprint should be. Teams cannot decide, especially in the beginning. Okay, yes, teams can provide the feedback that, okay, hey, we don't feel comfortable in 2 weeks of sprint. We need a little bit more time. Okay, let's go for it. Again, it has to be an agreement and also business, good use case as well. Why? There should be a big why. Remember, when it comes to sprint retrospective, actually, I'll spend some minutes on that one as well. But it's a great question that would decide the sprint duration. Anything else? Okay. All right. Good question. I mean, it also, I like the collaboration as well. That, you guys are really taking interest and listening, not putting on mute and doing something else, huh? Drinking chai or evening tea. Anyway, so coming on to the sprint planning. Over here, Scrum recommends, like from the Scrum guide, they recommend that it should 8 hours. It could be less or more, but the recommendation, again, this is the process gives you guideline. Keep that in mind, that statement. So if it's 8 hours and you join a corporation or organization, they're using only 2 hours of sprint planning. So are they doing something wrong? No, because they have journey towards that like approach. They have agreed that 8 hours is too much for the team. Let's keep them focused on actual work. Let's reduce our sprint planning up to 2 hours, or they may be saying 4 hours. So, but is again, these are the highest ones. Like the most it can go in one day. Like first day of the sprint is always called sprint planning day, which is 8 hours. So it's mandatory attendees. Like who should attend the sprint planning event? Remember, like duration, right? And who should attend and how it can be done. Like those kind of questions that you guys can address those during the sprint planning. Okay, how long it should be? It could go up to 8 hours, but it could be less. Okay. And again, these are not in your control. If you, as a Scrum Master, if you have joined, first question I'll be asking to my leadership is, what is your current cadence? And even in fact, remember during the interview, they ask you, hey, do you guys have any questions for us? Ask these questions. What is your current process? Where you guys are in transformation? Do you guys have any existing Scrum teams or not? How many are those? Those are type of questions as you can ask them during the interview, and then they will answer you because they know they are currently where they are, right? And this is where you can ask you, hey, how long your sprint planning goes? Although it's really like low level question in the interview to ask. But again, you can ask in terms of where they are, what is their sprint cadence, not the sprint planning duration. But again, I'm just giving examples that you guys can throw those questions during the interview. Okay, so the next question might be in your mind is who should attend, right? It should be attended. The required attendees are product owner, development team, and the Scrum Master and Scrum team, which is called Scrum team actually. Scrum team is comprised of product owners, developers, and Scrum teams, Scrum Master itself. It could be more as well. Product owner might bring others as well into the sprint planning. For example, if the product owner is newly transitioned, right? There was existing product owners, and now they have transitioned to another one. So they may bring the old one as well, or previous ones as well, or other field champion, like SMEs, subject matter of experts, for their help. To especially in the beginning, everyone is like a little bit new to the process, right? So they need some support. So, but the mandatory ones are product owner, developers, development team actually, which is, remember, developers. It could be QA engineers, it could be architects, system analysts, business analysts, anything, and Scrum masters. So what they do in the sprint planning is they look at the overall product backlog. They look at the prioritized items, and product owners actually drives that conversation. Hey, to me, out of 10, these three are my top priority. Then teams start looking at the ones, and then they even push back sometimes. Hey, we think that number three is not possible. Can we pick number four? These are trade-offs with product owners where they feel comfortable. And then once everyone is in agreement, then the sprint is started with sprint planning. We'll get to that in a minute in detail. I'll show you a kind of quick snippet. Sprint plan, like backlog and the product backlog. There are two things, two backlogs you have to consider. Moving on to the daily Scrum, another event, right? So it should be 15 minutes. I think I already shared in the last class as well. The best practices, the recommendation is 15 minutes. The mandatory attendance, again, it's the developers have to attend actually, because the development team actually, because they are the folks that are working, right, based on these commitments of the sprint. They work on those, like they deliver, right? So we have to provide the status, the development team, where what they did yesterday, what they have planned for today, and are there any impediments or blockers. We will spend our future slides will address those in details actually. So, and again, remember what I recommended? It could go up to 30 minutes as well. The remaining 15 minutes you guys can use for collaboration or anything, any other discussions. Our product owner might make any announcements or updates, right?
Sir, can I ask a question, please?
Mhm.
If the daily Scrum is only 15 minutes and only developers have to attend that, then how the Scrum Master know what's going on?
Yes. Remember, it's cross-functional team, correct? So cross-functional teams is any one of them. These are mandatory ones. It's not saying that obsolete, remove the Scrum Master at all. These are the guidelines recommended, the best practice. For example, if there is no Scrum Master have joined yet, anyone with Scrum knowledge within development team can be a proxy Scrum Master, right? So that's why they are recommending over here. There's not saying that it's a hard and fast rule that only the developer have to join. Definitely, it's not a they are saying like least mandatory. The one that has to be at least exist or join the meeting is the development team or developers. I know the term is confusing in developers. It should be actually development team instead of developers. But coming to your question, anyone from the development team can be a proxy Scrum Master. So if there is no Scrum Master, if they are hiring Scrum Master, right, and there's a delay in the joining of the Scrum Master or assigning, right? But that doesn't mean that team should just wait and then sprint should start or not. No, anyone with Scrum knowledge, or if they, at least with those principles, they can start. They can it could be even product owner can be a proxy Scrum Master as well. But they are over here. Keep in mind those are mandatory attendees, not saying that oh they should remove Scrum Master at all.
Got your point. Thank you so much.
Okay, sprint review, 4 hours maximum. But again, it could be less, it could be more, but 4 hours is the limit. Don't go beyond 4 hours. Actually, I should have taken it back. Like not more than 4 hours. What is the reason with those timelines? 8 hours, 15 minutes, 4 hours. Because remember, the idea is to keep the thing to keep the team focused on the actual development. These are the meetings, right? Events where you guys collaborate with the stakeholders, where you show your work. It happens at the last day of the sprint actually, where team show demo their deliverables to the product owners and stakeholders, just like it's mentioned over here. Because okay, now let's time to celebrate, what we did in the last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, depending on the sprint length, right? That's where they show it to the customers and stakeholders and the product owner and get the feedback. Remember, feedback loop is important. It's continuous feedback is very important. Where that's where they can say, oh wow, this that satisfies my expectations. Let's move on, or they want to here they want to tweak it up, or they want to get some more updates, or tweak up more of stories or more work, right? Then they can. Those are all the conversations with product owner or stakeholders, and also like trade-off. Okay, we can definitely do it. Is it really important or urgent? Then if it's urgent, let's take a look and revisit the backlog. Remember the top of the 10. Then do some exchange some of those are conversation that debates that happens, and give and take happens, and product owner agrees. That's final accountability comes up on the product owner's shoulders, because they're the decision makers of the product prioritization. Remember, Scrum Master Scrum teams, they can provide the recommendation and their feedback in terms of backlog prioritization. But it's the finally it's the product owner who takes that product to the next level, right? And they set the priorities because they know the market trends. They are the SMEs. I know I keep using SMEs. I think I already mentioned subject matter of expert, right? So they're the knowledgeable persons. They know much better. So they also have big accountability as well when they shift something. Okay. Again, it could be 4 hours. I saw 1 hour sprint review frequently. Um, most adaptable, and even sometimes teams go for the 2 hours as well. Moving on to the sprint retros, 3 hours maximum. But some teams also combine sprint review and sprint retrospective together as well, like back to back. Why? Because those both events happen at the last day of the sprint. Sprint review, as I mentioned, right? It's the last day of the sprint, team demos. But in retrospective, what they do is inspect and adapt. Just let's reflect back what went well for us, right? What worked for us, or what did not go well? What was the reason? What are some action items? Those are the outcome of those retrospective. The discussion happens. That's where you encourage your team to speak up and provide any risks or concerns so you guys can refine the process and move on. For example, team might not be able to deliver everything what they committed, right? Even half of it, then it's okay to fail. Even failure is part of successful. Remember, like encourage them to accept the failure and don't let their moral down. Don't do that. Encourage them that okay, it's okay to fail because we recently transformed, but let's learn from our mistake, right? So that's where they document everything on the sprint retros and go from there. And I want this, remember I lightly in the beginning of the class I mentioned where backlog refinement fits. Some of the industry leaders, they consider this backlog refinement as a fifth ceremony as well. They don't consider the Scrum itself as a ceremony. So again, when you are asking the question, when you are answering those questions, someone in the interview panel, they might be asking, hey, where the backlog refinement fits, right? You see this slide contradicting with this slide? You have to keep that in mind and explain them and elaborate them if they push back, or even ask them, hey, one some of the industry leaders, they consider this backlog refinement as a fifth one as well, but it's not documented in the Scrum guide. So I'm answering you from this slide definitely relates 100% with Scrum guide that I shared with you guys. But over here, I saw that as well because there are some mindset, right? They consider that where the backlog refinements fits. Backlog, this one takes place continuously. This one does not come under any sprint ceremonies, actually. That's why the name itself, it says backlog refinement, not sprint refinement, right? But what's the purpose of this backlog refinement? We're going to come into the continuing slides. Let's take a look on deeper dive into the each ceremony. Sprint planning. Purpose, remember I mentioned you, plan the work. If you relate it to the software development cycles, it's always start with planning, right? So that's where over here it fits as well. Planning is important. Without proper planning, you cannot be successful. Either way, no matter if it's a waterfall or Scrum. Plan the work for the sprint through the collaborative efforts of the Scrum team. So product owner brings up those stories. They say that, okay, these are the prioritized ones. If the team have any questions, they answer them. But overall, it's a team, Scrum team's collaboration and engagement is important. The first event with sprint is sprint planning, actually. As the name suggests, this is when the work of the sprint is planned. It has a time box of 8 hours, and mandatory attendance consists of Scrum team. Over here, I took a snippet just to explain to you what is the input. When they start, you guys might be asking where are they looking? The input is actually product backlog is one of them. Definition of done. We will actually take a deeper dive in if time permits, but I can share some contents in the email if it's not possible to cover everything. But over here, the major ingredient of this planning input is product backlog itself, actually. Those are definitely you guys can take a look on the definition of done or definition of ready. Dev team capacity. Actually, capacity is very important as well. You have to consider, for example, if the product owner is pushing for top 5 on the backlog, right? And the team is only capable of delivering only 3. How you come up with those estimates, right? How you can come up with that number or with that idea that, okay, our team is comfortable with only 3, not 5. There should be some metrics, right, that you can show. It could be a previous sprint velocity where the team was able to deliver, or average velocity that they have been delivering. For example, I know we are a little bit early in terms of saying velocity or estimation, but we will get to that point where I will elaborate it a little bit more as well. For example, the estimates, the user stories were they were delivering 30 points in the previous sprints average. Now the product owner is pushing to take like 40 or 50 at least, right? Based on the prioritization and work, market trends and all those things. Then you have to keep that, tell them that, okay, well, you are saying asking more than what we have. Bring more development team folks on the board, right? We need one more developer for that or one tester. Give them kind of perspective, how many resources you need. Maybe they will help you to loan some resources from the other teams and get the work done. Okay. But input is major input is product backlog and the team capacity. I see those two ones as optional ones, but yes, they have importance as well. Activity, what they do during sprint planning. Select the work that we will do. Remember the commit. Commitment is important. Agree the way, just like I was about to say that. Agree the way the work will be done. Activity is they pick up the stories or tasks or the whatever is broken down, right? And then they agree, okay, these are the one that we agree, we feel comfortable and we will deliver it. And the product owner and the stakeholders trust the team that they will deliver. Okay, what is the output of the sprint planning? Each sprint planning, remember, goals or objectives are important, right? If the sprint is without goal, then it's nothing. You are not taking out 100% out of that planning. If there is not a single sprint goal is defined. For example, you are baking a cake, right? So first thing what you do in terms of planning, what you guys need environment or you need at least a container, right? You bring a container where you're gonna put your ingredients in there and then mix them. So what is your goal of the first step is to prepare the dough, or you are baking are you making a pizza for the kids, right? So these are the things that you have to consider and apply them into your daily life, that okay, each step has its own goal. What is the without any goal, I mean, even your career, take your career, or your education levels, right? Those are all agile actually. If you take a look, if you apply those, you will find agile scrum in your daily life everywhere. And then what is the another output is sprint backlog. Remember, I gave you a hint that there are two backlogs that you have to consider. One is product backlog itself, and the other one is sprint backlog. Sprint backlog is subset of product backlog actually. Why? Because out of 10, how many stories you committed? 3, right? So these 3 is your sprint backlog now, because it's a subset, it's prioritized, and these 3 will be delivered. That's why they put it under the output of the sprint planning. Any questions on this? Okay, all right. Daily Scrum. Remember, 15 minutes. I know we already talked about it, and this is what everything is captured over here as well. So, hold on. Where is the daily sprint? So the question was, if the remember required attendees, I already addressed that as well. The mandatory one attendees are the development team. But what they do is they look at the sprint backlog and they provide their status. Each of the development team, whoever is contributing work. For example, I'm a tester, right? I'm testing a user story. I'm not developing anything, but I'll be providing that how many stories are where I am in terms of what I did yesterday. These everyone answers these 3 questions actually from regular pattern is what they did yesterday, right? What is the plan for today? And are there any blockers or showstoppers or impediments? These three terms are widely used. If you hear those three, these are all three are same: impediments, blockers, showstoppers. Okay, so impediments or blockers or showstoppers are something that actually, the team members are that particular team member is unable to move on that particular effort. For example, if they're working on building a menu or homepage, right? And they are waiting on the some of the clarification questions from the product owner. They're blocked until they get get to that point and they get their answers. And it's normal and it happens. What as a Scrum Master you can do is help the team and reach out to the folks whoever are the bottleneck, like whoever are the holding those impediments or resolution. And even I don't mind if during the Scrum call I reach out offline, because I'm doing multitasking. I have my office phone with me. You open the team chat. I reach out to the other product owner. Hey, can you join our Scrum call for a few minutes? And they join. And then we start our conversation or questions to them. Hey, my developer has this question for you and waiting for you. Do you have any answer right now or any input? And then remember, bring them on the table and help the team to resolve it quickly rather waiting for a separate official call or meeting. Although, there are some mindsets in the leadership or product owners, sometimes I saw those kind of challenges as well. Hey, can you set up a meeting on my calendar? I'm busy. Okay, you are busy, but my team is waiting for you. Okay, so in a nice way. Remember, don't be mean. But the goal is that's where your team proud of you actually feels proud on you. Why? Because they say, oh, we have support from the Scrum Master to finish our work on the job. I'm gonna stop for a second because it just clicked in my mind to share some cool video with you guys. If you are interested, it's a funny movie on a Scrum that you'll definitely enjoy. And it's not that long. It's not 2 hours or 3 hours long. It's few minutes. I think it's 3 minutes, I believe, if you guys don't mind. It will help you how a Scrum Master can be passionate. Let me unstop. I mean, stop sharing because I have to share my audio. Turn on that option as well, so that you guys can enjoy. And definitely, it will clear you lots of concepts. Trust me. Uh, Apologies about the music. Are It's too much loud. If you guys have louder like volume on your ears, they may rip. So try to tolerate the volume level in that video. So with that, let's get started. Let me share. Now it will be easy, and you guys will be able to hear it. I turn it on. There you go. Okay. Jeff Sutherland, you guys might have heard about from who is Jeff Sutherland? He is the author of Scrum Guide. In the beginning, I was showing you guys actually, but this is what he came up. He has lots of great videos of Scrum. You will love it. This is one of them. It's 4 minutes only long, but he's also explaining at each iteration at each level as well. So it's 4 minutes long. Over here, what's happening? It's a daily Scrum, and people are taking it easy. Someone is coming late. They are just passing the time.
Yeah. Yeah, yes. Hi. Hi.
You see this? It's supposed to start at 9 o'clock, and then time passed. They wasted like 10 minutes, right?
Hi, buddy.
You have to be on time for the daily stand-up. It is the same time, same location every day. Loser!
We evolve.
The daily stand-up is crucial. You can't be late for the daily stand-up. You don't let your teammates wait.
The first time I heard about this Scrum.
This is Jeff Sutherland. Okay, so that's where he is elaborating that first time when they heard about Scrum, they thought that, oh, it's not ideal for us. That's what he will explain it to you guys. And he will be talking. This is the Ian Scrum Master, actually. Sometime also they call it like, mean Scrum Master. But he's saying, well, after he joined, what impact he made.
Scrum thing, I didn't think it would fit our organization. However, after we sent Ian to Scrum Master training, things rapidly changed around here.
I'm the process enforcer! Oh!
Thanks, Wendy. Hi, Mike. I can make this incredible deal. Lots of bonus. I just need a minor change. It's just a few hours of work. Come on, can you do it for me?
See, if product owners or other stakeholder or external requests, they're deviating the focus of the team member, right? And you say, "Oh, I'll give you lots of bonus and do just this for me." Here we go.
I'll give you this donut if you do it.
You fool! Never interrupt the team! They're in a sprint, they have focus, so no changes! If you want extras, go to the product owner! I am the process enabler. Scrum works great, but let the team do the work. That's what they're good at. They deserve being left alone. I take care of that. And do I enjoy doing that?
Hell yeah.
After we introduced Scrum, the productivity of our teams went through the roof. They focused on maximizing value by delivering a new version of our product every 2 weeks. Rapid value creation is key.
Hey, I finished this feature yesterday.
The code is done, but we still need to run it through a regression test. Quality is key.
I'm sure it works. I'll put it to done.
It's not tested.
Yep, you can't mark the story as done if it's not tested, right? But he is focusing, oh, it will work. I'm confident. There you go. What happens next?
Done means done! If it's not done, it is not done! Hey, Lisa. You know that! Don't mess up the Scrum board!
Ian is not only here to enable the process and protect the team, he's also here to facilitate the team and to coach them. He helps them to create the best day possible, every day.
Anyone like some coffee?
Yeah.
There you go. Here's the concept of servant leader comes up. You guys might have heard, I'm sure you will get that question as well. And even in the job description as well, you will see that servant leader term being used. So that's where Scrum Master does their every single effort, try their best to make the team is easy for the team to keep this focused. And no matter if they need a coffee or if they need a massage or something, so they do. That's what the Scrum leader, servant leader does to make the Scrum things easier for the team.
Come on, sit up straight. You don't want your back to get hurt. Wait, let me help you with that.
Nice.
There, you must feel much better now. Enjoy your coffee.
Thanks, Ian.
A Scrum Master needs to do what needs to be done. I am a facilitator. It's not about me. It's about the team. Anything that needs to be done, I take care of that.
Yeah.
This is funny part.
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
So the light goes off, right? So it's the Scrum Master's actually duty to do anything to resolve the impediments, right? So this power electricity is gone, right? Is outage. So how the Scrum Master resolve it? Let's see. He's running the treadmill.
Hey Ian, speed up, we're losing power.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Ian is our Scrum Master. He protects the team, he coaches the team, and he ensures that impediments are busted. And do I mind the way he does that? Of course not. It's the end result that counts. It's Scrum that makes it work. It's the team that does the work. But still, you do need your Scrum Master.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it over here. There you go. Let me admit someone from the lobby. So what do you guys, what kind of lessons did you guys learn?
It's
Can
a summary
anyone
of all the
summarize it?
Scrum Master duties.
There you go. Correct. How you can be a good Scrum Master. That is perfectly elaborated. Yes. And remember, one of first scenario was given of the daily Scrum. Everyone was late. They were taking it easier. They were not focused, and that's why I thought that okay, why not just share this video at this moment of time. I hope you guys loved it. And also, even like during the interview, people ask you guys, what makes you guys good Scrum Master? And you guys can elaborate and learn from this video and answer this appropriately. Okay. All right. So the next one is sprint review. I know we talked about it, but the purpose is to inspect the outcome, review, and get the feedback right of the sprint and determine future adaptations. So next step is the sprint review, which has a time box of 4 hours. Remember from the Scrum guide, it could be less, but 4 hours is the max. And who's a mandatory attendance is included Scrum Master, Scrum team, and the stakeholders. So when they say stakeholders, they also include product owners as well. So don't get caught yourself or confuse yourself. Oh, product owner is not mentioned over here. Product owner could be fitting over here in Scrum team. Can someone go on mute? Hold on. Or put them on mute at least. Um, so yeah, Scrum. Remember they use the word Scrum team. So can I need some assistance from any of you guys?
It's completely brand new. It's
Mm.
kind of like the thing that you
Excuse
bought.
me.
$10.
Someone is working at the gas station. 1 second.
Not team.
1 second. Here you go. Okay. Sorry about the distraction. Again, that's where I need a Scrum Master too now. um, And okay, Scrum team. Remember they use the term Scrum team, not the development team, right? Scrum team consists of development team, product owner, and Scrum master. So that's why they added the stakeholder at the event. This event is for the collaborating with the stakeholders to get feedback on an increment or small iteration. Remember, the created during the sprint. So these are the inputs like increments. Remember, like iteration or sprint, and then product backlog is the input. Activity product owner, like states the sprint goals and work. Again, this is the review, a demo, right? So they say, okay, what was our sprint goal? Where the team was able to meet the goal or not, right? The development show work done. Developers show that what kind of work they did. They literally show working software to the product owner and the stakeholders. That's how they gain the trust and confidence from the customers. Okay, and then remember I show you I already shared with you guys. Stakeholders provide the feedback. Feedback is very important because the customer satisfaction is the key, right? If they're not satisfied, how you guys can move on to the next level, right? Our next iteration. So output, adapted product backlog. So they said, okay, let's minus those features or things that you guys have delivered out of the backlog. We are good with that. Let's keep moving. And these sprint review items will be the input to the next sprint planning, or like which will be the MVP, minimum viable product. So that's where it's a great event, and also teams also receive so much kudos or appreciation as well from the stakeholders, because why? Because the team have worked hard to deliver those deliverables. Okay. All right. Sprint ceremonies. It's last but not least is sprint retrospective. Retrospectives are important. As I mentioned, this is my actually one of the favorite ceremony as well. In fact, I got the question in the interview, what's your favorite ceremony? I said, okay, I enjoyed running the retrospective because that's where you reflect and adapt, inspect and adapt, right? You look at your mistakes as a team. What did not go well, right? And what are the action items or improvement areas where we can improve so you can work and with more improved team. So over here, this is I have elaborated the purpose. I'm not going to go into every single word on these slides. Remember, these slides are the start of the conversations or discussions. The idea is to consume all the contents that I'm sharing and even answering question or we are discussing, right? So everything cannot be reflected on the slides. So if anyone say that, oh, I'll get the recording and I'll get the slides, that'll be enough for them. Um, Trust me, the idea, the class environment is why it's important. You guys all been students, right? What was the purpose of going into school rather watching videos on the training, right? So anyway, I'm not getting to the point, but again, you guys might see something missing on the slides. Oh, he did not capture this topic on the slide or something, or this statement, because I covered them during our conversation, our discussion, right? So over here, purpose of the retrospective is inspect and adapt, reflect, and learn from your mistakes, come up with the action items. That's why the Scrum Master may facilitate is to identify things which went well, things which did not go well, and ideas for improvement. How can we improve? Because it's not something that we share our concerns, right? And we do nothing. And I also see some of the teams in my career observation in my experience is they come up with some action items, but they never work on it. Oh, we went to into retros and team brought up those concerns and we have action items. Okay, how you are tracking your action items, right? Okay, for example, one of the action item could be uh, working with product owner to participate in each ceremony. Okay. For example, product owner might not be joining Scrum teams daily Scrum calls frequently. They say, "Oh, we are busy," or product owner is unable to join the sprint reviews. Remember, that's where they approve those tickets, the stories, or they reviewer it. Remember, they sign off, right, based on their feedback. And if they are not available, how can the team present to someone? To themselves? No. They need from product owner and stakeholders, right? Availability. If they're not, then Scrum Master will take the action items out of that retrospective to bring them on the table, especially where they are required, actually, right? So I will put my name. Shahid will work with product owner to to make sure product owner joins the sprint review calls. That is one of the action items. Okay, fine. I elaborated. I put it. I own it, right? What if I don't work on it? That's where the team slip on those items, actually, action items. Those are very, very important. And what are the best practices to keep the red on their radar? How? For example, your sprint cadence is 2 weeks, right? So you went on the sprint retro, you took the action item, but you did not get a chance to work on it. So what is the purpose of retro? You did not get 100% out of that retrospective, right? Because you never worked on that action item. That's where you go back, and I also pulled the previous retrospectives as well from the teams meetings that where we are on the previous action items. Or there is another best practice. I create a task for myself in the product backlog with zero estimation because I don't want to get it prioritized. This is for only for myself. But at least it gets the visibility, right? Transparency is very important. So don't lose the track of those action items, please. If you want to be a good Scrum Master, keep them on your radar and don't slip on it. Always reflect back, look back, review them. Hey, what were the action items of our previous call, right? Previous retro, where we are. Let's talk about 5 minutes. So that's where people get trigger. Oh wow, yeah, man, I owned it, but I didn't work on it. Please, create one task for myself, or I will have some more input into the next retrospective calls. Or use your collaboration time. This is where smart Scrum Masters do. Remember, if you end up early in 15 minutes, or if your daily Scrum is 30 minutes, you can pull up this retrospective or action item, make whoever is owning that action item, ask them, hey, you know where we are? Can we get any update? Do you need any help or something like that? So just break the ice, right? Here we go. Remember I showed you, I promised you guys, I will show you two differences. There are two backlogs items, like two backlog terms that you guys frequently use or hear. Product backlog and sprint backlog. I know I addressed it lightly that sprint backlog is a subset of the product backlog, right, itself. But here are more differences in detail level where you guys can even elaborate in clearing your concepts. The product, I'm getting some feedback on the audio. Um, Please go on mute, whoever is talking or multitasking. Um, First one, backlog is anything that needs to accomplish the project vision or product vision. Remember the wish list, right? Product owner owns the product backlog. Over here, the development team owns the sprint backlog because they commit, right? That out of 10, three will be delivered in 2 weeks. Who does that commitment? The development team, right? Out of the sprint planning. And over here, anything that is needed to fulfill the sprint goal, not the product level or project level. So that's the major differences as well. The other difference is product backlog contains the requirements, defects, tasks. Over here, the sprint backlogs are subsets of the product backlog items. It could be like development task, testing task, or subtasks of those as well items. Everyone in product backlog, everyone contributes to the product backlog. Everyone. That's where the backlog refinement calls are about it. Where the team collaborates, they refine it. They put more details because those are high-level stories. Just product owners go ahead and create them quickly because they don't want to lose the track, right? But they need more details, right? They may need wireframes or prototypes or how look and feel like what how homepage will look like, how like payment menu will look like something or page, right? Something like that. So those are type of things that like anyone can contribute and they can share the ideas. Over here, only the development team contributes to the sprint backlog. Yes, give the control to the development team and trust them, they will deliver within that period of time, 2 to 3 weeks. Product backlog refinement meeting is to refine the product backlog. Remember I mentioned you for the and we already had slide as well for that. That's why it's called continuous meeting. Over here, sprint planning meeting is to refine the sprint backlog items. So those are the major differences that you guys can relate and clear your concepts. Any questions on this slide? Okay. All right, here's the quick snippet of the in Jira. Remember, Jira is the most widely used it's Atlassian tool. But I'm just giving an example for sprint backlog and the product backlog visually, so you guys can see, look at in front of your eyes that how it makes difference. Remember, we've been using 10 versus 3 or 4. Over here, backlog is more, is huge. It's keep refinement. It's keep refining, right? But those are the top ones are prioritized. That's why it's called like high priority, low priority, but arrows. But they move it actually. So for example, in the product owner's vision, two are ones like high priority, and let's give a kind of team a simple one or easy one as well. And then they also keep like critical ones are that's how they prioritize. Let them prioritize. Don't poke into their work. Or here, out of those, they pull all like how many are those out? Like 8 or what? Um, 6 of those, yes. Or the product backlog has 8 items, but the team committed 6 item already. So earlier it was 14 it had. On the top first 6 ones, they pulled it into the sprint and then they committed. It's called sample sprint 2, like which is kind of, high level name of the sprint. It's starting from here to here, and backlog does not have a start and ending because backlog is backlog, it's not sprint, right? So I hope this makes more sense to you guys when you see by yourself in front of like how when we talk about sprint backlog and the product backlog. So this is sprint in progress already. It has started. It was started on 26 April. I know it's an old one, but again, it's going to end on 10. And here's the sprint backlog. Okay, sprint backlog view in Jira. Again, this is a sample snippet that I took it for you guys. And like when you as a Scrum Master, first thing that you do when you wrap up your sprint planning is to start the sprint. If the sprint is not started, if you have not time boxed your activities, how can the development team can start? Because again, remember, the sprint is very important. It gives you container. If the sprint is already not existing, it's only placeholder, right? It has not started like execution. Then how can you reflect your work? That what is needs to be like in what is to do, what is in progress, what is to do, like what is done, right? So first thing that you do as a Scrum Master, after your sprint planning is done, you kick off the sprint. You start the sprint, and that's where Jira asks you that, okay, start date, end date, and then you hit the start button. It does not go right away. When you click on this start button, it asks you like start date and the end date. That's where length of sprint comes up in the picture. Okay. We will have some hands-on practice if time permits in Jira. In the last training, I covered it, Jira, as well. I will try my best to give you kind of full package uh, as part of this training. Otherwise, Jira is not counted in Scrum training or any other because tooling, right? It's a technology, it's tool, it's not process. But again, how you can reflect or implement everything from your process perspective, right, into the tool. You should know that as well and consume it and practice it, right? So that's why I try my best to give you guys kind of full package, from process standpoint and also in Jira as well and in tooling. Okay. 7:10, quick time break. You guys agree? Can we take a quick time break?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. We'll be back on the 7:20-ish or 21 the most. Okay. I'm putting into the chat as well.
Oh, mine was on. Oh.
Okay, we are back. Are you guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Earlier, there was a comment from Sayed Ali is about whether Scrum Master go on break or not. So we are human beings. We are humble, and also we're a robot. Um, so yeah, of course, Scrum Master go on break as well. Let me share my screen. I'll go from there. I know we have a long way to go. We'll see how far we can go in this class. But yeah, we're doing great so far. Uh, Let me share my screen and go into the presentation mode. So that's where we left, right? So sprint backlog view in Jira. Earlier, we were trying to see the differences between sprint backlog and the product backlog. But the question might be, you guys might be asking or struggling is trying to consume it, how the work is broken down. That's very important. For example, keeping 2 weeks in on 2 weeks in mind, right? What if we commit something that is bigger in terms of effort, right? If it takes a month or about even more than a month, something, right? How we break it down into a level where we can deliver with that big piece in a piece of it, as like a portion of it, in within 2 weeks. So that's where it starts. It's called in PMP you might have heard about WBS, work breakdown structure, WBS, where it has a top-down approach, bottom-up approach, so many things. But feel free to Google it. But this is where this term or effort relates to that practice as well, because the idea is to deliver smaller but faster. So keep those things in mind, right? Small job first and faster. The more faster you deliver, the more you get quality and risks, less risks, and much more customer satisfaction comes up because you picked a smallest piece of it and you delivered it, not something you committed to a bigger effort and you end up not delivering. You're not doing demoing anything, yeah, right? You're not presenting anything at the end of sprint because it was too huge. So that's where the concept of these terms comes up handy, kind of the big picture. Just first of all, organizations, companies have strategic teams, right? They have big initiative. Okay, we want to build a new mobile app in this year, because the old one is not compatible to the iOS version or something, blah blah blah. So this year, our company goal is to introduce a new mobile app, new version of it, right? Okay, this is strategic team up to the top level. This is huge. Okay, then it drills down to the epics, it's called. Epics are then they did break it down into the high level. Okay, how this app will will be compatible to the new iOS versions, or what are the features. Remember, that's why it says features. Which enhanced feature will it have, this app? The epic is overall its strategic theme is building a new app. Okay, and then the epic could be compatible to the iOS 12, iOS 11, blah blah blah. Those are then what are the features could be. Again, these are that's how the work. It's a top-down approach. So you look at the overall organization's initiatives, you break it down, you align it with them, and that's how it the smallest you pick a smallest piece and then you deliver it faster. From strategic themes, it comes to the epics, and then boils down to the feature, and then feature is broken down into the user stories. From user stories, these are user stories that are committed into a particular sprint, but even that particular user story is also broken down into the smaller tasks or subtasks as well. We use the term task over here, but in Jira reality, it's called subtasks because tasks and user stories are at the same level in Jira from tooling perspective. We will elaborate it more when we will dive in deeper, take a deep dive into the Jira. But I don't want to confuse you guys here. So let's consider this task as a subtask, from the technical standpoint. But the idea is to break down up to a smallest level where you can deliver it. The question might be up to this point. User story is, of course, I mean, we want to build a homepage, like, first of all, when like login page, where user provides credentials, right? Username and password, correct? So then you divide it into the smallest subtask. Why? Because the developer might have it's consider its user story as a piece of cake, okay? And it has different layers. A cake has multiple layers. I hope you guys have enjoyed multiple layers cake, right? So take consider that analogy in your mind. So the development piece, the testing piece, and also maybe integration piece, any other piece, whatever layer, right? And those all built together to make a good, delicious cake, correct? The user story is piece of it. Okay, so you over here, the developer might be working on the development task, testing might be starting scripting, and then testing itself, the actual thing when the development is done, and then it may be any integration or any like environment like a QA deployment or something like that that might be happening as well after the testing is over, right? So those are the tasks or subtasks. And in effect, you keep that in mind, the software development lifecycle, right? Planning, development, testing, and then like an implementation. So what we do is we break those bigger initiatives, bigger efforts into the smallest pieces, but we do the same practice. Okay, and because the practices, the standards are the same, that we have tweaked them up, enhanced them, and up to the broken down into the smaller pieces. Not we did not have introduced anything particular fairly new. No, the concepts are the same as SDLC. That's why if you read the job description of product owner or Scrum Master, must be familiar with SDLC. Why? Because if you are not familiar with SDLC, how can you relate that philosophy and concepts to over here when you're doing like acting as a Scrum Master or product owner, right? So that's where it applies over here. The principles and guidelines are the same. It's all about how you have tweaked it up. That's what the beauty of Scrum comes up, like the smallest but faster. Deliver smallest job but faster, and then keep doing it. Repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse. So, I mean, now I hope it makes more sense to you guys why the teams are capable of delivering within 2 weeks. So does it make sense now? Because they broke it down to the smallest level, right? Okay. So the next question could be, what if in the first shot they make a mistake, or they don't consume everything, and they have recently transformed, and they picked up some big stories where they have combined multiple things together, and they were not aware of it. They were not properly coached, or their mindset was not changed. They were still sticking with their old cubicle, like waterfallish mind, which is called hybrid model. We call it, or I can also call it in a funny word like scrum fall. Why? Because they have recently transformed. It takes time to adapt, right, to the new process, and they may be clubbing multiple features into one and committing it. Oh yeah, I mean, these are the same stories. We can build them together. So let's bring them all as well, not in one story maybe, right? So that's where the issues come evolved, and the concepts of breaking down into the smallest pieces. You have to keep that in mind because they will not end up delivering within 2 weeks, which is per time box of a sprint, right? Or 3 weeks. I know I keep using 2 weeks, which is most widely recommendation actually, right? But again, keep whatever is sprint length is defined. Why? Because you have to break down into the smallest piece. Trust me, I came up with like 4 or 5 variations of same user stories because due to for example, adding a menu or then like linking some menu. There's another user story, although they are the same and dependent to each other, right? But no, you have to keep going, delivering it. Otherwise, if you combine them together, like homepage with the multiple payment module or blah blah, you will never end up delivering in time. And then customer, oh, I mean, I don't have anything to look at it. team did not work on it, anything, they will lose, you will lose the confidence and customer satisfaction because it's not there anything to for the team to demo or show them to get the feedback. Correct? So I hope it makes sense now. Any questions on this slide? This is very important to understand this concept. Okay. All right, I take the silence as no question. Here we go. What is an epic? These are now, we are getting into the more details now. Those are high level representation, and I know I mentioned earlier as well. But over here, let's take a look. An epic is a high level required function that the business user needs to perform as part of their job. Okay, because they're, for example, they're in the middle of meeting or they work on the surveys and they keep putting those high level stories while they are doing those things. Like those discussions are happening in the meetings, right? Or they are collecting the data from the surveys, or they're on the phone calls and they're like, getting the customer feedback. What they will do, they're not able to capture every single detail, right? What they do, they will just put a high one line of statement and then move on, because that's where the one line statement brings up the visibility. And also, this is the starting point of your development cycle. Remember, I showed you this slide earlier. I'm sure you guys were able. Why is not going? Okay. Uh, there you go. This is the one. Because they are part of those like meetings, right, or calls. They are unable to give you all the details single in that at that moment of time. You will get to that point. Why? Because thanks to backlog refinement sessions. That's where you break it down into the smaller pieces. And also, let me also take put a note over here as well, that sometimes some companies or some organizations, they don't adapt, they cut this layer actually feature. They create the epics and then they have on the top after the epics they create user stories actually. So it depends on how they have coached or how they have set up their transformation office. And if you don't see feature, don't be surprised. Okay, oh, you guys are doing epics and then user stories, fine, works for me. Because remember, there is no hard and fast rule to, you have to have features, you have to have any other formalities or those. No, if they are doing only epics and then they're using stories, I mean, fine, go for it. Okay. So the epics are high level. Again, keep that in mind. High level business requirements. Simply, that's it. That will be broken down into the user stories. Epic starts out as the high level requirements needed by the business user, but are broken down into iteratively into the user stories, representing the smallest level of functionality. This is really self-explanatory definition of an epic. Okay. So in fact, in other words, what you can say, user stories are subsets of an epic because user stories are derived from epics, right? So same thing from like concepts from the sprint backlog and the product backlog. Over here, same thing. Okay. What is a feature? If you see, for example, if you happen to get that question, a feature is a distinct element of functionality which can provide capabilities to the business. Same thing, like it's a next level of an epic, but it's again still high level, but it represents a working functionality of a particular business capability. So over here, Apex goes down to the features, like team backlog features are like a part of those team backlog as well. The feature is broken down into the user stories to define the simplest level of functionality that can be delivered and added to the team backlog. Again, if you don't see features anywhere in your organization, if you join as a Scrum Master and they are following Apex to user stories, fine. Don't force them. Hey, why you guys are not using feature? Okay, we are not using. What if we, what should we do? So again, it all depends on how they are transformed. And the user stories. Sorry, the development team uses the user stories as a scope to develop and test this small functionality. So I hope this is a kind of quick collaboration of Epic feature and the user stories. But quickly over here, now user story itself. This is really important. Trust me, please focus on this terminology. This is will be widely using in our future classes as well, and also to get you like great Scrum Master. What is a user story? This is a common question, very common question. A user story is a simple, clear, brief statement of intent that describes something the system needs to do for the user. Again, don't get caught in yourself into these words and dictionary definition. In simple words, what you can say, a user story is a simplest or smallest part of a requirement. Simple. That's it. Smallest part of a requirement from a user's perspective that you can add if you want. But again, over here, see now the big difference because these words are summarizing what I'm saying. It's simple, clear, brief definition of intent that describes something the system is. Okay, this is over here we are summarizing the requirements actually, but it's a simple and clear, a smallest part of a requirement from user standpoint. Also, these are the characteristics like user stories represents the simplest level. These are also other definitions of, you're welcome to look at it. Smallest increment of functionality, as I said that before, that can be delivered by the development team while still providing the value to the business users. User stories are also written in business language. We are getting to that point actually. Next slide is talking about it. Those are written in a business language to bridge the communication between end user or stakeholders, right? Like customers and the technical team. So for example, end users or customers are saying common English verbiage, right? And the teams are using the technical terms, environment, deployment, blah, blah, blah. Those are they build the bridge between those two groups. User story also represents the customer's goal, not the system's attribute. Like defines the what part, not the how. Okay, keep that in mind. So again, this is some really good to understand. User stories are also not detailed at the outset of the project, but they're elaborated on a just-in-time basis. You don't need right away those users to remember. Those will be broken down. Earlier we had epic, then we get to the feature, and now we have user story. So that's why it's the in time, not in the beginning of. User stories lead to a conversation between the business users and the development team. Remember, the business speaks their language, technical teams, they use their language, and then they come up with the user stories. And here is the features. Hold on, what's going on? There you go. Anatomy of a user story. That is very important, actually. Remember, keep that in mind, business language and the technical language, right? But over here, we keep that so simple that anyone can understand. Okay. Um, each user story has two parts, narrative and the acceptance criteria. Very, very important because you may ask, oh, what is acceptance criteria? Or what are the two anatomy of what are the two ingredients or building blocks of a user story? One is narrative, the other one is acceptance criteria. Narrative is as a role, for example, I am using the system, right? But with which role? As a user, as a product owner, or as a Scrum Master, or what is my role profile? Remember, some people are super users, right? They have more access to the system than the others. So that's why role is very important. As I want. So what are you going to achieve? What is that requirement is about? Functionality. I want to perform as a customer or for example, if you are building a login page, right? So of a Chase Bank profile, right? User. As a Chase Bank customer, I want to log in to my profile so that I can update update my address, for example, something like that. So it could be one simple user story. So your address is changed. So what are you going to use? You want to update your profile, right? So as a Chase Bank user or customer, I want to log into my profile, bank profile, so that I can update my address. Your address is changed, you have to update it. This is one of the simple example of narrative. So now you see that if there is another need of mine, for example, I want to change the phone number as well. What should I do? Should I just put so that I want to, so that I can change, so that I can update my address and phone number, or will there be another story? Anyone?
Another story.
Another story. There you go. Why? Smallest piece. Okay. Break it down into a smallest piece that you can deliver easily and faster. The narratives of the user story defines role, who is going to use, okay, a functionality, what is going to be achieved, what is the purpose, value or benefit, why, so that that piece, value or benefit, what it will, what achievement or what value I will get it, so that I can do this or I can perform this. So that is the value part, like big why. So who, what, and why, those are the part of the narratives. Now moving on to the acceptance criteria, which is important. Now you can understand. I will know when this is done. Okay. How can I say that it's satisfied? Okay. Yeah, this story is done from my part. How? What is your success criteria? In other words, also epics also have success criteria or acceptance criteria. Even epics have also acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria is kind of checklist which feels like, which satisfies that particular requirements or smallest piece of requirements. Okay, if that acceptance criteria is not complete, then the user story you cannot mark it as done. Remember the funny movie when he was moving to the done without testing piece? Remember the lady came and she moved it back to the in progress, right? She said it's not done if there is no testing done, right? So same thing. Acceptance criteria is a kind of checklist which satisfies the completion of a particular user story. I will know when this is done. Done means completed. When? First, my first criteria, second criteria, second, third criteria, whatever is a checklist. Remember, first of all, when I will be successfully logged into my profile, right, with the correct credentials, or the other one, I'm unsuccessful using wrong credentials. Third one, happy path. Remember happy path and then the negative scenarios, right? And the third one, I'm able to update my address successfully and save it. System saves it. It stops. It's not something that if I update it and when I click the save button, it threw an error. And then it's not saved right properly or updated in the system confirmation, something like that. So all the checklist which get to the finish line of that particular story, capture it. It could be happy path, which is kind of successfully login, right? Or updation, or it could be negative path, like, we're not saving or like, using wrong credentials, all those things. So acceptance criteria is a list of acceptance tests to confirm acceptance test. Remember, look, that the story is complete. Remember, that's why I highlighted on happy path and the negative scenarios. It is clear, simple, understandable, and testable. Okay. Any questions on this slide? This is very important. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put it on the idea boards or ask during the call.
Sorry if I missed something. I want to know who has to write the user stories, the developers or the Scrum Master?
Good question. Yes. Um, when we say Scrum team, Scrum team is like, made of what? Product owner, Scrum Master, and the development team. In an ideal situation, anyone can write the user stories. Definitely, because these are cross-functional team, right? But sometimes, depending on the transformation office and the companies as well, I'm working with Fed over here. Most of the time, product owner writes those those user stories. But it's not something that is the only expectations from them. They voluntarily did because they know the system very well. and they want to team make it easier for the team, and they could be focused. For example, if you pull your team in creating user stories and forget about the actual work that do a commitment, right? Then what will happen? You will lose your predictability, right? Plan versus committed. You planned how many points? Like, for example, 6 items in the slide that I was showing you, and you end up only delivering three tickets, three user stories, right? Why? Because you pull the team into creating the user stories, which is administrative work to me. It could be Scrum Master, it could be business analyst, it could be product owner. Whichever whoever is available, go ahead and keep grooming it. And these are the exercises are being done during or before the backlog refinement sessions. Give the team a healthy backlog. A healthy backlog means a good amount of user stories, 50, 100, no matter. In an ideal situation, the question of actually the other tricky question you guys might face is, what if the team does not have anything for the sprint? For example, today is the sprint planning, right? And the only product owner was able to, uh, create only 2 or 3 stories, which is way less. Team needs more work. What you will do? What are your options? So these type of challenges or scenarios that you will face to for it might be easier, Scrum Master look easier to you guys, right? But when you get into actual situations, these are the things that you have to think outside the box. That okay, what if this scenario happens to me? What will be my answer or question, or ask me or challenge me, right? So these are the type of things. The recommendation is to give the team a healthy background. When we say healthy backlog, means team should have at least work for the next 2 or 3 sprints. Okay, those should no matter if it's 50 stories or 10 stories or 100 stories. When you say the team have work for next 2 to 3 sprints, then you are good. You can say it's a healthy backlog. Otherwise, you have to speed up the cadence, speed up the occurrence of the backlog refinement session. For example, if it's happening once a week, actually, nobody asked me a question about the cadence of this backlog. When I say continuously happened, nobody asked me when we say continuous, what is the ideal cadence? How should frequently it should occur, right? The backlog refinement session. The best recommendation is once a week, 2 hours. But it could be 1 hour. It depends on the team and how if they have a healthy good background backlog, then 1 hour is enough. But outcome should be good, at least not something that team is only coming up. Outcome was only one user story, spending 1 hour or 2 hours. No, then something is wrong. So coming back to my scenario, right? Uh, so if the 1 week is not working for the team and they still have less work in their pipeline, in their backlog, right? Then speed up the cadence. Bring like do a twice a week, Monday, Thursday, this keep them going, because tell the team why we are doing it. Give them a good why, the reason why we are speeding it up, because we don't have the good healthy backlog. We need more stories on the board so we can the product owner can prioritize it. Okay. All right. So what other scenarios could be? Um, yeah, I talked about the product owner's availability to prioritize it, right? And the refinement sessions. During those refinement sessions, these stories, if the stories are missing, go ahead and create it. And also, product owner's availability is very important in the refinement session, backlog refinement session. This is actually Scrum guide. They have updated it. They are not saying backlog grooming anymore, but they're saying the backlog refinement session, because somebody might take grooming in different way. I'm not gonna go that way. Anyway, but if you hear backlog grooming, fine. I mean, those are normal terms or old ones, but it's not something that their knowledge is obsolete. Um, so the goal is to keep the team busy, right? It's because one sprint closes, the other starts the next day, right? It's never ending. It's relentless effort. You have to keep going. You have to keep the rhythm going, momentum going. It's not something, oh, let's take a pause on this sprint, relax, cool down, all those. No, there's no question about. There's no room for this. But at the same time, you make their team's life easier in a sense because they work on those smaller pieces, not the huge pressured environment. Like, oh, you have to finish this huge feature in 2 weeks, no matter what you work in the weekends or overtime or no, not like that, because they finish those user stories in within hours, within day, and then they pick another one. Okay. All right. So the question, another good thing is the best practice is actually I really picked this slide for a reason, because some of the like you guys might face this question that what is invest model in the Scrum, and then they then say invest. Do you see there's something investing, right? Investment standpoint. Actually, they're asking about the characteristic of a good user story. So that's why it's called what makes a good user story. User story could be high level, could be incomplete, it could be anything, right? What you say that, oh wow, I look at this user story, it's great. It's one of the good example. Why? Because it satisfies all these criteria. It should be independent, can be developed, tested, and potentially even delivered on its own. Try to minimize the dependencies. So I'm waiting. My story is waiting for this individual story. If he's once he's finished, then I can start. Otherwise, I'm stuck. I'm blocked. Then you have to break it down into a piece that you can independently work on it. So that's why the story should be independent. Try your best. I mean, the dependencies are unavoidable, of course, we understand. But at the same time, try to address them. What are the ways to minimize those dependencies? So you can not end up in any blockers, right? Negotiable, not a contract for a specific functionality, but rather a placeholder for requirements to be discussed, developed, tested, and accepted. Negotiable means, excuse me, sorry, let me get some water. Um, it should be on the bring it up on the table, not waiting for something to sign. The document is waiting or approval is needed. Remember those formal documents where they have signature piece and all those like paperwork. Remember we went into the Agile values manifesto over contract negotiation. What was that? Working software, okay, or individual or collaboration over contract negotiation, because you sit together or at least in in-person settings, right? You negotiate, you talk to your product owner that okay, you have prioritized 10 features, I mean 10 user stories, but our team's capacity is only like 7. How can we pick up more? Or unless if you bring more resources, right, from the other teams. It's called negotiation. Ask them, bring their awareness. They will work with you. Definitely they will work with, trust me. But they need to understand a good story. What is the use case? What is the reason behind your those trade-offs, right? Give and take. You have to understand, give them understanding. Look at our capacity. From the average sprint, we've been delivering only 30 points, and this work is 50 points, which is almost 120, 140% more. But again, negotiate with them. And the product owner is one of the example. Even team members, they negotiate between themselves as well. Those user stories. Hey, I worked on. I can pick this user story. Can you pick this, the other one, or something? They work. Remember self-managed. Remember we use a term self-organized and self-managed, right? So if the user story is non-negotiable, if they say, oh, it's too big, I cannot pick it up, it should be an epic, then it's not ideal user story because it has to be independent of course, negotiable in terms of not a contract. If the user story is saying that okay, it needs a manager approval, blah blah blah, in their acceptance criteria, definitely there is something wrong then. Okay, take that piece off and work on that something part of the requirements, that placeholder that could be discussed, developed, tested, and accepted. It's not something that you work on infrastructure. Oh, I need to bring a new CPU, something like that. Okay, So that is not ideal user story. It could be a task or something which is infrastructure related, right? Or procurement things that have contract, that have approval, budgeting, all those things. But it's not business requirement, right? It's just only to bring another machine or something or server, right? That could be different. But I hope I was able enough to give you kind of perspective. So the user story should be talking about the business. Otherwise, there are a lot of other issue types as well. It's called a task or a spike. When we'll get to Jira, I'll elaborate a little more on that. Valuable, for example, sorry, yeah, negotiable. It could be another even analysis effort as well, right? Where spikes comes up actually. So valuable, oh yes, definitely. There's no question about value, because if the business saying you guys work on this, I appreciate your hard work, but I'm not seeing any value in that user story, then it's not ideal user story. Must provide some value to the user. Remember, so that I can achieve this functionality or luxury or flexibility. Estimatable. Yes, definitely. Very important. And we will get to that estimation in next class when we will get to the story points and estimation piece. Fibonacci series and all those practices contains clear acceptance criteria and broken down into the small enough so the effort to the implement effort to implement the functionality can be rapidly determined. So how you can say that this story can be completed in within 2 weeks, right? That's where the estimation comes up. Contains clear acceptance criteria where the teams can assess, look at the acceptance criteria, and they said, oh yeah, this checklist, oh, this is 1 hour job, this acceptance criteria, this line is 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes, we can accept this. We can commit it, right? So then this should be broken down into smaller, that is, it's only a few hours work or only the days most work, not beyond the weeks. Otherwise, it should be broken down. Okay. Small. I think I already talked enough on it, right? Small enough to fit into a single sprint. Testable. Yes. Story should be testable. If the story is only development purposes and the testing piece is missing, it's not done. And I think Funny Movie already talked about it, right? When she put it back to the in progress, not done, right? Because it was missing testing. So any questions on this? Okay. I think I'm going to pause on this slide. After that, we will jump on quickly to take a look on the questions piece. But these are also 3 C's that Agile coaches also recommend to consider. Other than invest, you should be, when you might be asking yourself that where we put those user stories or how we bring them on the table, right? So there are lots of ways. One is using 3 C's actually, using card. You guys might have sticky notes, right? Sticky pad, a sticky note, whatever you call. Start writing on it. And those 3 narratives, remember, like as a role, I want to do, and so that piece. And create a user story for yourself. The story itself, the card, bring it. Remember, like idea boards. You saw that those are stickies, right? Those are also cards. The story itself, a promise to have a conversation at the appropriate time. Bring it. If it's not captured, right, in the backlog somewhere, how can it bring the conversation? How it starts the conversation? You will lose the track of it, right? Traceability. Because it's not in front of my eyes. It should be visible as a card, no matter if it's visual card or a sticky pad or whichever idea card you use. Conversation. The requirements themselves communicated from the product owner to the delivery team, right? Via a conversation. That's where your refinement session, backlog refinement session, or backlog grooming sessions comes handy. Those are the best venue to talk about those user stories. And that's where the product owner set the stage for the team. Hey, to me, I created this user story. Let me know what else is missing in that. Okay, then team will ask question. Does it have any dependency on this? Or okay, can you add this acceptance criteria or not? Okay, I think it's a big one. You have to break it down. Then product owner go back and break it down because it was bundling multiple things. So this type of how teams talk to product owner conversation, right? On the backlog grooming session or anywhere during the middle of the sprint or whatever. Write down what is agreed upon. That's where definition of done as well, like working agreements. Confirmation. Remember, acceptance means acceptance criteria, which is the checklist of how the story will be accepted, right? Accepted means confirmed. I am okay when the product owner or stakeholders say we are good with these user stories. It satisfies our expectations. That's where it's called another third C, which is called confirmation. The acceptance criteria for the story. How the delivery team will know that they have completed the story when they say definition of done, right? Like development is done, unit testing is done, QA testing is done, like environment deployment, whatever is needed is done. No dependencies, right? So that's how it's called. Come up with the checklist of definition of done, and also which is part of your confirmation. With that, I'm gonna pass on this one, and let me go back to here we go. Okay, so let's take a look on the idea boards. I wish I could show you though, guys, this video was 4 minutes, but maybe we can cover it in the next one because we already getting over a few minutes. Let's take a look because this my philosophy is no question left behind. So I reserve a few minutes. I hope you guys don't mind staying a few more minutes, and then we will wrap it up. Okay. So I'm not going to go into first question because this is ongoing. I already keep it as a highlighted. Don't expect that I will be putting answer because that answer cannot be captured everything, right? So that's why these questions, keep them as it is. So, and then I will answer them. For example, who decides the time period of each sprint? I think Sana already asked this question. So the answer is agile coaches or PMO, or you can say whoever activates the sprint, whoever is responsible of the agile transformation, not the team itself. Okay. So it could be agile coach, or it could be another title, right? It could be director, agile coach, whatever. But the leadership, you can say agile leaders. What are some good resources for taking online classes or watching the videos for free to get more understanding of the concepts? Yeah, I'll keep sharing with you guys. And whoever, I already encourage you guys. I share my WhatsApp number, my cell phone number. Right? You can text me, call me. Uh, or email me that okay, I need a one-on-one offline session with you, and I will be happy to assist you guys. And also, I'll keep looking for any online key tool. There are hundreds of so many contents are out there. But I also mentioned some Udemy cheaper courses like $10, $15 if you want. Or there are some free as well. I'll keep looking for you guys. The challenge is my time only availability, but I will keep recommending you guys. Okay. So these two questions are answered right. So like we can mark it as done. Okay. This one I kept it because this is Scrum considered to be the most flexible framework under the Agile methodology. Partially, yes. Correct. I mean, Agile also itself is flexible actually. When you say Agile methodology and it has other framework under that like XP, Kanban, Scrum, you cannot say Scrum is the most from Kanban or XP because it depending on the situation and scenarios. I see some of the um, portfolios, they went back from Scrum to Kanban actually. They did not go back to waterfall, of course, because that was like the way worse. But they also did rollout as well of from switching from Scrum to another practice, which is also agile, but the practices was a little bit different. But agile, when it comes to agile is flexibility. But under agile, everything is flexible. You cannot say this process is more flexible than the other. So I believe it should be rephrased in a sense that, okay, under the like software methodology or something, or like widely used or something, yes, it's widely used. That you can rephrase and ask this appropriately. Otherwise, it's debatable. People will definitely argue with you otherwise. Okay. Any other questions that I might have missed? Along with the priority, is there a time estimate added to the user stories? We will get to the point when we will do the story estimation. We will talk about it. Time is one aspect of it. To your question, we also consider complexity as well, and also unknowns as well. For example, there could be something. There are some scenarios or challenges that evolve when you start actual development, right? Before that, those are unknowns. Those are uncertain situations. So if there are if you have that kind of lessons learned from the previous, then go for higher estimates or hire more. So I mean, of course, this is kind of short summarized answer to your question, Ahmed, about the time aspect. Okay. Any other questions? All right, I'm stopping the